So if you're a filmmaker or someone who shoots videos, chances are that you already know about the Aputure 120D. It's a great LED light that has really amazing color renderization with a decent amount of output, and it's pretty inexpensive considering you know how much normal filmmaking gear goes for. But still, $650 is a bit much, especially if you're just starting out. So how much can you lower down the price tag without sacrificing a lot? So hey everyone, how's it going? It's Yash here, and today we're gonna look at an LED light that is what I think one of the best investments you can make if you're starting out. So the light that I'm talking about today is the Godox SL-60W, and this light has been getting a lot of attention recently, and that's for a great reason. This light only costs $140, and I'm gonna say it's as good as the 120D itself, but for a fraction of a price. So firstly, let's look at the build and design of the light. So the main chassis of the light is made out of plastic and metal. It's built really well, it feels really sturdy. On the front is where you find the main LED chip. It's a one chip system like the Aputure 120D, and there's a heatsink around it to cool down that giant LED chip. It comes with a bow ends mount, so you can attach any sort of bow ends mount light modifier like a softbox or a strip box to it. The main mounting part is made entirely out of plastic. I wish it would have been metal, but still felt really well. The tilt lock handle on this thing is really good. It's nice and easy to tighten or loosen up the light to tilt it up and down. And there's also an umbrella mount built right into I believe the mounting area is called a yoke, if I'm not wrong. So there's an umbrella mount built right into the yoke. So if you're using an umbrella diffuser, you can attach it to the light directly without using any sort of adapters. So that's a plus point. And there's also a handle on the top of the light to carry the light around. So on the back is where you find all the inputs and controls of the light. Also on the back you'll find a main display which shows the intensity of the light as well as the current temperature at which the light is operating on. And besides that, there's the main dial to control the intensity of the light. It changes the output in increments, so going from a 0 to 100 takes quite a bit of turns. Besides that, you can see there's a group and channel button because you can take multiple of these lights and sync them around in groups and channels and control them using just a single remote. More on that in a bit. Other than that, there's the main on and off switch and the main power input. Unlike the 120D, which has a ballast system which is required to supply power to the light itself, this light only has a single power cable system. So you just plug in one cable to the light, plug that cable up to the wall, and you're pretty much good to go. And that is so much better in my opinion. You don't have to worry about anything clanking or hanging around the light. So now let's look at the remote that comes with the light. So yeah, I have it right here. The remote also has a display that also shows the intensity of the light as well as the group and channels, so you can take multiple of these lights, sync them up in groups and control all of them just using this single remote right here. You can obviously change the intensity and turn the light on and off using the remote, but there's one thing that I've noticed, that the remote sends all information to the light but doesn't receive anything in back. And what I mean by that is you can change the intensity just fine using the remote, but if you change the intensity using the knob on the back of the light, that percentage will not show up on the remote itself. So the remote sends out information to the light but doesn't receive anything in back, so it's not completely synced. And one more thing is that you can't go below 25% using the remote. Don't know why, that's a bit weird because you can go as down as 10% using the knob on the back. That just doesn't make sense why, but that's one thing to keep in mind. And now let's talk about the performance of the light itself. So the light is stated to output about 4500 lumens of brightness at a meter distance apart. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I don't have a light meter to check, but I think it's pretty accurate. And it's actually quite similar to the 120D. I'm gonna put the output of the 120D on the screen. It also comes with a reflector in a box that if you attach will increase the output of the light dramatically to up to like 13,000 lumens, I believe. So if you want to make the light more brighter, just attach the reflector and it will increase the output by a lot. And the light is stated to have a CRI of 93, which is really good, but not as good as the 120D, which I believe has a CRI of 96. And if you're not familiar with CRI, it stands for Color Renderization Index. It just tells you how good color reproduction the external light is giving you. 100 being the best, and anything above 90 is considered good to be used for photography and filmmaking. And that's the reason why you don't use normal household lights for photography and filmmaking stuff. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind. So whenever you're buying any sort of lights for filmmaking and photography stuff, just make sure to check how high the CRI is. Anything above 90 is just fine, but anything below 90 is not considered good to be used for filmmaking or photography. So before this light, I was using just a generic softbox with normal LED bulbs inside of it, and I'm just gonna put in a shot comparing both of them side by side, and you can see how much of a big difference CRI makes. How good the color reproduction of the skin tones and the colors are on the Godox when you compare it to the normal generic softbox. And the one that I have here is the daylight variant, which means it has a color temperature of 5500 Kelvin. And there's also a tungsten variant available that has a color temperature of 3200 Kelvin, I believe. And the W in the name SL-60W stands for white instead of watts. So the name of the tungsten variant is actually SL-60Y. And there are more powerful variants of the lights available like the SL-100W and the SL-200W with their tungsten variants as well. So if you want a much more brighter light than this, then go with any of that. Now I haven't faced any sort of flickering issue with this light, but a lot of people actually complained about the SL-60W having flickering issues when they increase their shutter speed well over 1/1000 of a second. But the unit that I have here doesn't seem to have any problem like that. But if you're planning on buying one of these, make sure to check out for the flickering issue, and if your unit does have any flickering issue, make sure to just replace that one. So now I'm just going to talk about the camera settings that I'm using for this frame, just to give you a general idea of how bright the light is. So my shutter speed is at 1/50th of a second with aperture being at f4 and 400 ISO. So this is the normal setting that I use for these types of aerial shots, and the light is actually sitting at 60%. Since the past 4 months I've been using this light, it has served me really well. I mean, still $140 for a light like this, just add a nice softbox to it and you have an amazing key light setup right there. And yeah, I forgot to mention that there's also a fan built into the light itself to cool down the whole system. It's not as loud to be picked up by microphones, but still I'm gonna be quiet for a couple of seconds and see if you can hear the fan in the background. So far, I'm really satisfied with this light. It has really great colors, it has nice output. It's just about a fraction of the price of the 120D, and I just feel like this is much of a better deal overall when compared to the 120D. So that's all about the light and also all about today's video, I guess. So give the video a thumbs up if you like what you saw and subscribe for more coming videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.